My wife cleaned out my bank account for her ex, only to discover it was a trap. She thought she was careful slick, even. Her phone always flipped screen down the moment I walked in. Notifications silenced. The sound of her typing would stop mid-sentence if I got too close. And the errands? They started piling up. Unplanned trips to the store at night, visits to friends I hadn't heard about before, vague reasons to step out while I was still getting ready for bed. But I watched. I took it in without saying a word. The pattern was unmistakable. She wasn't just pulling away, she was hiding something. Her texts were no longer brief. Her laughter changed, the kind that didn't include me anymore. The looks she gave me were different, polite, restrained, distant, like a roommate practicing kindness instead of a wife living in love. It didn't take long to figure out who was behind it. His name showed up once. Just once, in a corner of her email, buried in a folder she thought I wouldn't look through. Eric. The ex-boyfriend she never talked about, not even when we were still in the early days of our marriage. The one who left her in pieces before I came along. I'd seen the pictures years ago, broken, hollow-eyed, hugging her knees at her sister's place. She swore he was behind her, a chapter closed and burned. Except now he was back. And this time, they were writing a different ending. Together. They were smart, or thought they were. It started small. She began asking questions she'd never cared about before. How much we had in savings, whether I'd considered moving accounts, if I ever thought about investing in other assets. It came wrapped in fake curiosity, but the timing was too clean. And her tone was never quite natural. So I set the hook. Quietly. A few months back, I opened a new checking account, one I made sure to link to our shared logins. I started moving small amounts in, enough to look real, but never enough to raise alarms. I called it our rainy day fund and made sure she saw me checking it every now and then. It became a part of my daily routine, a performance designed for her eyes. Behind the scenes, I moved everything else, every cent of real value, into a trust fund under my sister's name. Ironclad. Documented. Secured with legal walls she couldn't begin to climb. She never met my sister, never cared to, which made her the perfect ghost to hide behind. Then I waited. The morning it happened, I knew before I even opened my eyes. The side of the bed was cold. Her closet door stood wide open, hangers swinging like they'd been yanked free in a rush. I stepped into the hallway silence. The drawers by the front door were open, keys gone. The jewelry box empty. She didn't leave a note. Not even a text. I went to the kitchen and turned on the coffee machine like nothing happened. My phone pinged twice. First from the bank. Then from the alert system I set up months ago. She transferred every dollar from the fake account. Just as expected. I didn't call her. I didn't rush after her. I let the trap do the work. Later that night, I watched the security footage from the ATM near Route 7. She stood next to him. Tall, smug, wearing that old jacket he always wore back when I saw him in those photos. They smiled like thieves who'd gotten away with everything. She leaned on him, laughing, proud. She thought she'd won. But less than 24 hours later, the alerts kicked in at the state level. Identity misuse. Fraudulent withdrawals. Conspiracy to commit theft across state lines. Everything I needed was already handed over to the right department. Months of digital evidence, voice recordings, even a conversation she didn't know was saved from when she borrowed my work laptop and logged into her account. The call came while I was reading on the porch. Her name lit up the screen. I let it ring once before I answered. Her voice cracked before she said a word. They're saying I don't understand. The bank froze everything. They said I wasn't authorized. I waited, calm, then spoke. Check whose name's on it. Silence. A long one. Then the call ended. She thought I was the fool. Thought I'd never see it coming. She didn't call again that night. Not even a text. Just silence, thick and overdue. I sat in the kitchen with the lights off, phone resting on the table, watching the dark wrap around the house like it had been waiting to breathe again. The house felt empty, sure, but not unfamiliar. There's a difference between loneliness and relief. Around 2 a.m, I got the email. The bank flagged the withdrawal attempt on the fake account for multiple mismatched credentials, addresses, contact info, even a falsified digital signature. She'd tried logging in from a hotel Wi-Fi connection 2 states over. They'd used my name, my social security number, but linked it to her ex's new address. The software flagged it within 30 seconds. The message wasn't long. Fraud suspected. Account locked. Legal department notified. I logged into the private dashboard I'd set up when I moved the real funds. My sister had updated everything just as we agreed. Not a single document mentioned my wife's name. Not on paper. Not digitally. Nothing she could tie herself to, not even with a lawyer. That account sat untouched, insulated. The next day, the texts started. First short ones, call me. This is serious. You need to fix this. But I didn't respond. I didn't have to. She hadn't figured it out yet, not really. She thought it was a mistake, a technical glitch, or a bank error she could talk her way out of. Maybe she thought I'd be scared enough to help her clean it up. That was her pattern, when cornered, sound desperate enough to trigger sympathy. But I wasn't cornered. She was. By noon, the missed calls stacked up. Her messages shifted, longer, more frantic, fewer words typed cleanly. They're saying we committed fraud. Your name is on everything. Why are they saying I can't access anything? She never said we before this. Not when she took the jewelry. Not when she packed her passport. Not when she left her wedding ring in the drawer like it never meant anything. But now she wanted to lean into unity. Because consequences do that. I got a message from a lawyer that afternoon, her cousin, the one she never invited over because he talks too much. Apparently, he'd been convinced I'd frozen her rightful assets out of spite. He started demanding clarity, threatening with court. I let him speak. Then I sent him a scanned copy of the trust documentation, her name nowhere. No marriage tie. Not a single clause involving her. 3 hours later, he stopped responding. I went through the house that evening, not because I missed her, but because I needed to take inventory. Half her wardrobe was gone. Not all, just the pieces that fit a getaway, expensive shoes, designer coats, a few select watches she wore only when she wanted to impress. The framed photos? Left untouched. Not a single one was removed. Not even the wedding portrait that hung in the hallway, which meant it wasn't sentiment that guided her hands. It was value. What she could flip. Her laptop was gone, but her old tablet sat on the dresser. I booted it up and guessed the password on the second try. She always reused names from her favorite books. Inside, buried in her cloud files, was a folder labeled Receipts. Inside that were PDFs of everything she and Eric planned, bank accounts they thought were mine, fake IDs, even screenshots of my old tax returns. She must have pulled them off my work drive without me knowing. They'd mapped it all out. Each step. From moving funds to liquidating assets. They even had a rough schedule for when I'd be least aware. Business trips. Early gym hours. Weekend errands. They thought they had time. But their timeline never matched the facts. The decoy account had trackers built in, every access point logged, every file duplicated to a hidden drive. I had their whole playbook. 3 nights after she vanished, I got a call from a blocked number. I answered. It wasn't her. It was Eric. His voice was steady, but his words weren't. You set us up. No, I said. You set yourselves up. I just gave you the rope. You think you're clever? I think I'm not the idiot you thought I was. Silence on his end. Then a laugh, short, bitter. She said you were soft. That you'd cave. Then she learned something new. He didn't hang up right away. He lingered. I could hear movement in the background, maybe a hotel room, maybe someone pacing. Then he said something I didn't expect. She's gone. What do you mean gone? She bailed. Took what little was left and ran. Said it was all my fault. That's when I knew he wasn't lying. Because that was her. When the fallout came, she always cut loose. She wasn't built to stay through the damage. She was built to escape it. He started blaming me, rambling about betrayal, legal trouble, saying he had nothing left. I told him the truth. I wasn't interested in watching him spiral. I just wanted them both to face what they'd earned. Then I ended the call. The next morning, the police reached out. They needed a full statement. I gave them everything. Documents, IP logs, timestamps, bank emails, call records. I didn't hold anything back. Not for her. Not for him. They were officially under investigation, and because she'd used multiple aliases during the transfer attempts, the charges deepened. But she still hadn't been caught. A week passed. Then 2. I stopped sleeping in the bedroom. Not because it haunted me, but because I didn't want to feel the old rhythm of a routine that no longer existed. The house became something else. A place to think, not a place to feel. The 3rd week, she finally resurfaced, not in person, but on paper. A charge appeared on one of the old credit cards we used to share, the ones I forgot to close. It was traced to a motel on the edge of the state line. I called the bank, shut it down instantly, and forwarded the location to the detective handling the case. That's when things accelerated. A day later, she was flagged trying to board a bus out of state under a false name. They caught her with a duffel bag full of marked cash, prepaid cards, and an envelope with my initials written in pen, as if that was supposed to mean something. She didn't speak to the officers at first. Just kept saying it was all a misunderstanding. She claimed she had permission, that I gave her access, that we were going through a divorce and I'd told her to take what she needed. But paperwork doesn't lie. And the trust? The trust was watertight. When they brought her in, I didn't go to see her. I didn't need closure. I'd already gotten it when she chose to betray me. I read the report. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just sat there, angry. Not because she was sorry, but because she got caught. The media didn't pick it up. No one really cared about a failed con between 3 nobodies. But to me, it was enough. Because it was done. Or at least, I thought it was. That evening, I got another call. This time from my sister. "There's a man parked outside my place," she said. "Same car 3 nights in a row. Never gets out. Just waits." Eric. He hadn't been arrested. Not yet. He'd gone underground the moment she was picked up. The authorities were building a case on him, but they didn't have him in hand. And he was circling now, not at me, but at her. He thought my sister was the weak link. He didn't know she was the reason everything stayed protected. He didn't know she'd been watching, too. I told her not to engage, not to speak, just to document. The plates, the times, the direction he came from. We handed it all to the investigator. The last time I saw Eric was through a windshield. My sister called just after 7 in the morning. He was back again, parked outside her building, sitting in that same beat-up sedan. She hadn't approached him. She hadn't even looked his way. But she noted every timestamp. 3 nights in a row. No movement, no attempts to speak, just parked with the engine off, always between midnight and 4. Watching. I told her what I'd already decided. I was coming to end it. I didn't bring threats. I brought evidence. The drive across the city was quiet. I went over every document one last time, phone logs, emails, recorded conversations, bank records, and the backup folder from her tablet. Every piece of it was tagged, archived, and already backed up to 3 locations. There was nothing left to collect. I had everything. When I reached my sister's place, he was there again. Same car, parked by the curb, engine off, windows fogged slightly from the morning dew. I parked across the street, stepped out, and walked directly toward him. He saw me coming. He didn't flinch. He rolled down the window halfway, leaned back in his seat, and looked at me like nothing was out of place. "You really did all this just because she left you?" he asked. "No," I said. "I did this because you both tried to rob me blind and expected applause after." He glanced over at my sister's building. "She have anything to do with this?" he asked. "She protected what was mine. That's it." He gave a slow nod, as if trying to weigh his options. "You could have walked away. Let it die. You could have done the same. But you kept showing up." He looked out through the windshield, then back at me. "I didn't think you'd go this far. Because you still think people like you are untouchable." I handed him the envelope. He hesitated, then took it. Inside were the final statements, proof of every login attempt, the altered IDs they created, the money trail from the decoy account to the burner card in his name, and her voice on a recording explaining how they'd pull the final step. "You give this to the cops?" he asked, flipping through it. "They already have a copy. That's just for you to know what's coming." He didn't speak again. just stared at the pages like they were written in another language. I turned and walked back to my car. I didn't need to say anything else. That night, I got the call from the detective. They'd found him at a motel across state lines, trying to move what little cash he had left into a prepaid account using a fake name. The local police picked him up. No fight, no resistance. He didn't ask for bail, just sat there and waited. With both of them now in custody, the charges stuck fast. Fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, attempted embezzlement. And because they'd crossed state lines and forged documents tied to legal trust funds, the federal case came down hard. My wife didn't say a word during her arraignment. She refused to speak to the media, didn't reach out to me, didn't even make eye contact in court. The judge denied bond for both. The trial was quick. I didn't need to testify much, just confirm the records and explain how I discovered the plan. The evidence handled the rest. The digital trail they left behind was so complete, even their attorney didn't push for leniency. They tried to get plea deals. The court wasn't interested. She got 5 years. He got 8, both with no chance of parole until serving at least 70% of the sentence. I signed the final paperwork a month later, annulment granted, assets confirmed in my sole ownership, all fraudulent claims cleared. She lost any legal standing to dispute anything. There was nothing left for her to touch. My sister moved to a new apartment the following week, closer to her job, more secure. I covered the deposit. She earned that. Without her, the trust wouldn't have held so strong. Without her name, the money would have been vulnerable. But she never asked for anything in return. Just made sure I had someone in my corner when it counted. I stayed in the house, not out of attachment, but because I didn't see the point in running. This was my life, my name, my future, and I wasn't giving them the satisfaction of forcing me out. I replaced the locks, canceled every old account, closed the shared storage, changed the alarm code, cut off every number linked to the past. By the time winter came, it was like she'd never been there. One morning, months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name written in her handwriting. I opened it. 4 lines. I'm sorry. I thought I was smarter. I wasn't. You were right to walk away. No signature. No explanation. I threw it in the trash. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need it. The apology didn't change the facts. She didn't leave because she was unhappy. She left because she thought she could do better by taking what wasn't hers. Eric never sent anything. No contact. No words. He vanished into the system without resistance. I figured he understood it better than she did. Some people know when they've lost. Others wait for someone else to say it aloud. I didn't speak her name again after that. Didn't tell friends. Didn't explain. When people asked, I just said it didn't work out and left it there. Because the truth? I didn't lose anything. I saw what was coming. I stayed 10 steps ahead. And when it all fell apart, I didn't crumble. I let the pieces fall exactly where they were supposed to.